Black girl magic, y'all can't stand it, y'all can't ban it. Made out like a bandit, they've been trying hard just to make us all vanish. I suggest they put a flag on a whole nother planet. Black girl magic, y'all can't stand it, y'all can't ban it. Made out like a bandit, they've been trying hard just to make us all vanish. I suggest they put a flag on a whole nother planet. Black girl magic, y'all can't stand it, y'all can't ban it. Made out like a bandit, they've been trying hard just to make us all vanish. I suggest they put a flag on a whole nother planet.
I'm Leo Sunfire.
And I'm Dr. Love.
Welcome to the Black Portal Power, where we center the Black experience. Open your mind,
For your soul.
for the portal is open.
Well, welcome to Black Portal Power. Listeners, we've done a lot of different things with this show. We've talked about politics. We've talked about COVID and health issues plaguing our society. Today, we get to do something fun, enlightening still, when you say, Leo Sunfire.
Yes.
Where we really talk about the ways in which Black culture has always been at the forefront through artists.
Everything.
Always at the forefront through everything from artists of all kinds, spoken word artists, painters, writers, who have always been activists in our communities, but always bringing the Black culture to the forefront, making sure that the dominant culture knows how we contribute to this space, to this society. We've done it historically. We do it contemporarily. So that's what we want to talk about today.
Well, we have enlightened you on so many different ways, but we've decided we're going to bring in a little gift, a little special guest.
Yes.
I'm introducing Jerry Watson. He got a little something for us.
How you guys doing? Well, let's just get it started.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
The topic is the Renaissance spoken word, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, let's get into it. We got this poem called The Spoken Word.
Okay.
Yes.
Now, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. Words can move the crowd. They can make us snap our fingers and applaud. Words are what we use to communicate an idea and our thoughts. We use words to express our emotions, how we feel, you see. It's a way that we get our points across. Words are very powerful because they are a special form of energy. Now, this combination of frequency and vibration together forms a metaphysical, spiritual synergy that sends a signal straight to the Creator. This is how we pray and make our requests. See, words and sounds reverberate throughout the cosmos. It's the supernatural way that we manifest. See, this really hasn't been taught. This subject can get real spiritual and scientific to the point to where you have to pay attention to what you watch and what you see, because these things can make a significant difference. We can speak things into existence. Now, really understanding the true power behind this statement. But see, I'm always left in amazement the more that I understand mankind's abilities and our greatness. We're all co-creators, and the words we use are just like magic. We're casting spells with the intentions behind our words, not really understanding exactly what's happening, because words play an intricate part in the way that we all create. So we have to be very careful not to let too much negativity to take real estate in our mental space, because consciousness creates thoughts, and our thoughts, they create words. God's consciousness created the universe, the light, solar systems, and worlds. So if the word is this powerful, and God put this gift inside mankind when it made us, then that means that we can all be more like our mother, father, the Creator, when we understand the true power that it gave us. So I try to use my speech to teach, to uplift and reach everyone from the ignorant to the nerd. Therefore, I speak with intelligence and eloquence and give reverence to the superpower that the Creator bestowed upon mankind, better known as that spoken word. God bless.
Lovely. I love it. I love
So
it.
dope.
Thank you, Jerry, for sharing that spoken word with us today.
Absolutely.
And, as you laid out, that spoken word and the ways in which we present ourselves to the culture and speak about what's happening in the broader culture as well as our communities is really birthed out of the Black Renaissance, also known as the Harlem Renaissance. So this period began in the 1910s, expanding all the way through to the 1930s, where we saw this burgeoning of Black artists on various platforms, various ways in which they presented, you know, us to the dominant culture. So it's touted as one of the golden ages of African American culture, resulting in this vibrant level of music, of literature, of art, of stage performances of all kind. And it's spawned by this great migration as we move from the south to the north, right? And so it's known as the Harlem Renaissance because we began to move from the south and the atrocities of the south into the north, but still facing some discrimination, a lot of discrimination, a lot of vitriol and hatred in the north, but we began to develop in pockets like Harlem, and Harlem becomes one of our first ethnic enclaves. And so you see the movement really being led by people like W.E.B. Du Bois, right? And so he's a writer, an activist, a scholar of the time, and he lays this foundation by which we see what you're doing now and other artists are doing now, Jerry.
Right. Actually, it was the way that we taught our people. Yes. We use artistry to reach and teach out to our family members, our kindred, and it goes back actually all the way from Africa.
Yes.
We even have people like W.E.B. Du Bois you spoke on, and he was so into his culture and the things that where he came from, and this is the way we got our message across to our people. Intelligent message at first.
Absolutely.
But over time, things have changed. But
yes, they have. Yeah. But this is why it is important and vitally important that we bring into what I consider to be modern day Black Renaissance. Black Portal Power is our contribution to it.
Absolutely.
It's present day, and we are indeed proud to be Black, and to celebrate our Blackness through our culture. Renaissance is a French word that means rebirth.
Yes.
So understanding and understanding the rebirth of our Blackness, and our culture, and how it's being presented to the world is so significant in all of what they did in the Harlem Renaissance and what we need to do now.
Absolutely.
I mean, we cannot escape it. It's imperative that we focus on it, present it to the youth, and that we bring it to the forefront.
Absolutely.
More powerful than it was even before.
Absolutely.
I mean, we can go into past into the present with Langston Hughes, Marcus Garvey,
absolutely,
Zora Neale Hurston, to celebrate the culture and everything. And the most significant of what they call the legend of the Black Renaissance was Paul Robeson.
Absolutely,
so dope. I mean, he was a quadruple threat, if you want to call that. Absolutely. Because he did it all. He acted, he sang, he danced. He was an athlete. He was a lawyer. Internationally, and he was blacklisted.
Absolutely, like many of these artists were, and many of these people were. So Langston Hughes, as you mentioned, James Weldon Johnson, who they were all activists, right? They were bringing to the forefront through the use of the arts. Jerry, you even mentioned that it was even before this. And when we think about us being stolen and stripped from Africa, how we passed on those traditions. So when we think about hip hop as a culture, right? Even today, that the use of music to demonstrate who and what we are and how we contribute to these landscapes, it's always been there. And so, when we think about how the Black Renaissance lays the foundation for the civil rights movement that our parents are familiar with. But again, it stretches way beyond the 60s and 70s. It starts in the 1920s and or 1930s, and it expands all the way through to the 60s and 70s. And so this is where we see James Baldwin come to fruition, Angela Davis, Nina Simone, Sonia Sanchez, right? These activists, scholars, and writers and spoken word gurus, for lack of a better way of putting it. That's exactly right. They're gurus, absolutely, right, of their time. Huey P. Newton,
my guy,
Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, James Brown. Say it loud. I'm black and I'm proud. Right, that we come from a long-standing history of artists who have always reminded us of who we are, what we are, and so that we are never drowned out by the dominant society in defining who and what we are.
Exactly. Like you said, these people laid the foundation for us. All the musicians and the rappers that you hear today. I mean, they really started off with the spoken word, the Renaissance era, and later they just added a beat to the music, to the words actually. But they actually spoke about politics, different things that help our people move. They educated us in different areas of our lives, and they, like you said, they laid this foundation that actually goes on to the day. So if it wasn't for them, there would be none of us.
None of us.
Well, one of the things I want to piggyback on what you just said about how that foundation was laid, we have always had the drum music. We have always had the poems, lyrics. We have always had the dance, movement. We have always had the pen, art. We have always had the hands, creation. We have always had the mind, God. Don't forget that. Don't sleep.
Forget that. Don't.
Wake up, everybody. There's no more sleeping in bed.
Come on, Leo Sunfire. Come on.
Sing it.
I come here for it.
So I have to ask you all. I have to ask you both, Leo Sunfire, Jerry.
Yes.
Who are some of your favorite Renaissance artists, Renaissance through the civil rights? Because we're definitely going to bring it to the forefront in terms of today with hip hop culture and movements, political movements around it, and how it has been, a big contribution. But who were some of your favorite artists back in the day?
Me personally, I love Langston Hughes.
Yes.
But I love powerful black women like Maya Angelou. Maya Angelou, she spoke up in a time where women, especially black women, couldn't speak or do what they wanted to do. She's very powerful. She taught us in a lot of ways, and till up to her passing, till she transitioned over, she always gave us a good message. So people like that, I love.
Absolutely.
And for me, it's Marcus Garvey. I mean, of course you know
Of
that.
course,
You know,
of course.
a man with the plan to get to a land that belongs to us. You know, I focus a lot on our people. That's one of my, I sleep on it. I wake up on it. I eat that shit because it's important that we survive this. It's survival of the fittest, and that's what Marcus Garvey's message was all along, was for us to survive, for us to live through and get through this and live through it strong and powerful, our natural born right. That's who's my, hero through all of this with the Black Renaissance. He was very prolific in it,
Very prolific, and leading that movement, back to Africa movement, and the importance of us understanding our roots in Africa, that we should not disparage Africa in the ways that Western society, white America, has disparaged Africa. It is a plentiful, rich, vibrant continent, the biggest continent on the globe. Actually, when we look at the ways in which the map is presented now, European colonized countries appear bigger on our maps than they actually are if we look at these things from an oceanic view or from a true landscape view. We'll see that Africa is the largest continent, and we know that the oldest human remains were found in Africa, thus we are all African. But I also like those who said, no, we've planted roots here. We built this country. In fact, this country was built upon our backs. And so, when you think about other leaders of that movement, like Malcolm X, Dr. King, and others who were saying, I think they all played a role. They were all purposive in reminding us, whether we're talking about Africa or we're talking about what became the United States, all of it is ours. All of it is ours. We've contributed to all of these landscapes in important ways. And so reminding us of who we are and what we are, where we've come from, and how we have agency and power wherever we are.
I wanted to quote Paul Robeson. It's funny that you say that because it goes hand in hand with what you just said. We in America do not forget that it was on the backs of the white workers from Europe and the backs of millions of blacks that the wealth of America was built.
Yes.
People of color are gifted and intelligent, and we must realize that our future lies chiefly in our own hands.
Absolutely.
That's Paul Robeson.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's
Absolutely.
Deep.
Very dope. Very dope.
Deep, real deep, like that. Leo Sunfire, I know you were touching on the the instruments. I heard you speak something about the drums and all that good stuff. See, these people, our people, African people, we had something called spirituality.
Yes.
And they knew how the music and the message would affect us spiritually as people. This body is resonating at a certain frequency and hertz.
Get to it,
And
Jerry.
so,
Get to it, Jerry.
like I was saying in the poem, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God. It's words and sounds. Even our God created this temple that we live in, and it's actually a instrument. That's why we have something called organs, and you play an organ. But we use our music and the sound for healing. And we pass down these messages, and words are so powerful that I think we forget how powerful they are, and the true intent behind the words. That's where the power comes from, because some words have different meanings.
Absolutely.
But it's not necessarily the word itself, it's the intentions behind the words. And these people gave us power. They spoke to us. They gave us hope. They made us aware of who we are, where we come from. So I really appreciate that Renaissance area, the rebirth of Slick.
Yes, yes. Oh, you wanted to, and I'm so eager to get there when we get to where we are now and the foundations that were laid. I have to share that, and it's probably because of my St. Louis roots, that Josephine Baker is one of my faves too, just because of her history in St. Louis. All of these individuals, from Marcus Garvey to Paul Robeson, Marian Anderson, who also was a well-known opera singer, and the work that she's done, I can't say that I have a favorite, because they all contributed so much
Greatly.
In such an important and powerful way to who and what we are. And they certainly lay the foundation for where we are today, and the ways in which we have contributed, continue to contribute. And I think a lot of times our contributions can be denigrated. And I really was critical of this anti-hip hop, sort of rhetoric that was going around over time. But again, I want to make sure that our listeners understand, and that we touch on how hip hop is not a music, just a music. It is a culture. It is the way in which we dress, the way in which we speak. It gave birth to dance and all of and the various ways in which artists presented there. So what are your thoughts on that, Jerry?
It's awesome. Hip hop, actually rap. The word rap originated from rhythm and poetry. So we took the words and we applied it to some rhythm, and we started to dance. So, but it was also a way that we reported what we seen, what was going on around us. The world didn't really understand what I want to say the black culture was going through in the inner cities. We were so disconnected from the wealthy side of America, to where we needed hip hop to kind of, it brought a lightness to some darkness that were going on within our communities. Absolutely. Now, some people, they degrade it, they talk bad about it, but then it'll make you self-reflect, because it's like, we're telling you the problem. What are you going to do to assist? Instead of making it worse or judging someone, let's find a solution for these young brothers and sisters out here, because they're crying out for our help.
They really are. So, and they always have, right? Even if we think about that historical period to where we are today, that these artists like Paul Dumas and, The Mask, writing about this, Langston Hughes writing about the plight of African Americans at that time, our ancestors reminding us of where we came from, even in terms of African culture, and making sure we didn't lose that vibrancy, that richness that was stolen from us, our native languages, our tribal connections, but making sure we stay connected. And even when slaves could not speak, when they were not speaking the same language, depending on where they were stolen from, and where they were placed in terms of plantations, in colonies, and then in these states, right? Because slavery existed before this even became a nation. And to the point you made earlier, Leo Sunfire, this country could not have even become a sovereignty without slavery. But using dance and rhythm, using, the tapping of their feet to speak to each other, to communicate with each other, that you could not stop us from doing that. And so hip hop is just a reflection of what we've always done. Yes. And so that it started off, it starts off as sort of, as you pointed out, this spoken word over music as party music, but the message by oh my gosh, why are they Flash?
Grandmaster Flash.
Grandmaster Flash. I'm like, why is his name escaping me? And the Furious Five, the message is
Crush.
one of the absolute first songs that says, hey, listen, this is what's going on, right? That this is what's happening because of poverty that happened post the civil rights movement, the 1960s and 70s, where we were pushed into the urban core without opportunities, without jobs. So if the Black Renaissance lays the foundation for our migration from the South to the North and development of cultural pockets like Harlem, well, what happened after the civil rights movement? We saw this decline in jobs and business and industry that allowed us to have, space. And again, as the saying goes, first, last hired, first fired. And so this deindustrialization period meant our cities, our areas being decimated. And so the message is talking about, here's what's happening in the Bronx. Here's how we're living. And that, don't push me because I am close to the edge.
You took the words out of my mouth.
Come
when
on,
you said
Jerry,
the message.
I know.
No,
Come
I just
on,
love
jump
that
in, Jerry.
song because the message is pretty much, it was explaining exactly what you said. Is the things that happened, the aftermath of slavery, the things we're still dealing with, the poverty. And poverty, I mean, people talk about curse words. Words are powerful. Poverty is a curse word to me.
It is a curse word.
So things, just because it's derogatory, doesn't mean it curses you. But poverty, these certain things they spoke upon in the message, they made it clearly aware of what we were going through and the results of racism.
Absolutely. Systemic racism. Institutionalized racism. Because when you say a word like racism, some in our culture, within the Black community as well as the dominant culture, will say this is about individualized forms, someone using a racial epithet or something like that. No, we are talking about systemic racism that has been leveled against us, why the Black or the Harlem Renaissance was necessary, why the Civil Rights Movement was necessary, why the birth and burgeoning of hip hop is and was necessary, because it was always bringing to the forefront how we've been treated in the United States, yet we've always contributed to this space, contributed to these lands.
Well, just like it was before with the you were speaking on how the ancestors used their feet to tap to communicate. That's what rap began to was for our people. It was a way to express yourself, especially in the beginning of rap, a way for you to, hip hop I should say, for you to express yourself and get this shit off your chest. We know what y'all doing to us, and we cannot reach everyone that's like us if we don't create something to get them to listen to it.
Yes.
Everybody's not gonna pick up a book and read it. Everybody's not gonna watch the same station on television. So music is universal.
Absolutely.
You can't
universal.
change the vibration within the universe. So hip hop was inevitable. It was gonna happen.
Absolutely inevitable.
For our people, no different than our ancestors created jazz. Our ancestors created, I'll go back and say it again, we have always had the drum, music. We have always had the poems, lyrics. We have always had the dance, movement. Those things have been within us since inception.
That's right. Absolutely right. And so the Black Renaissance is where jazz is birthed out of it. The Negro spirituals that come out of slavery. This is where we get gospel music. And then now we're seeing this resurgence with hip hop. And so the message took hip hop from what was really social party music into this social commentary. And then it lays the foundation for what will later become gangster rap. And so a lot of times we think about gangster rap as being the only form of rap. And it too has an importance, right?
Well,
I don't want
it was a reason for gangster rap because that's what they were experiencing.
Absolutely.
Lauryn Hill said, I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact quote, there is no creativity without experience.
Absolutely.
So if they are experiencing these things out in the world and the world refuses to acknowledge it, what better way to get it out there for people that are experiencing the same things to understand you are not alone. We are all going through this in Detroit, Chicago,
Yes.
Atlanta,
Yes.
Kansas City, St. Louis, everywhere around this globe. If there's black people and there's an inner city or urban core, we're experiencing the same things.
Absolutely. And we see the way in which broader America, again, white America, really by 1997, I believe, we see the commercialization of rap, right? Where now you're not getting, your other rap sort of becoming mainstream in the way that gangster rap was, because these music industries, which are headed by whites, really wanted to market that segment and that segment alone. And so you have, after The Message, you have KRS-One, you have Public Enemy, who were speaking truth to these issues and dynamics happening in our community. They do not receive as much attention as NWA, which is also one of my favorite groups. I'm a 90s kid, and when they came out with F the Police, right, that they were speaking, as you were saying, Leo Sunfire, they were speaking truth to what was happening in the urban core, and it was still social commentary, even if it begins to be denigrated by members of our own community who were lamenting over misogyny, over violence. It's not glorification of these things. It is telling a truth about what's happening in our society. No different than the Harlem Renaissance, no different than the Civil Rights Movement, where we had critical writers, we had spoken word artists, we had painters who were putting on canvas the atrocities that we face too. And so I'm always really careful about the way in which broader America wants to frame or even criticize these movements that, they've always been critiqued. They've always been put down, and that we as a people have to be careful not to participate in that.
Yeah, I think they exploit us. And we bought into the money side of it.
Yes.
And therefore, I think some of our own people sell us out when they actually take the money to put out a negative message. Because the repetition of the message actually affects the subconscious minds of our youth.
Yes.
So therefore, how can I put it? We're actually programming our own people to be self-destructive.
Absolutely.
So we have to take that into consideration. Is it worth the money, or is it worth your life, or the lives that we touch? So you want to be very careful in the choice of words and how you use them, because they can exploit us. They can commercialize the things that we do. So we have the power. We are the true creators, like Leo Sunfire was saying, and we actually created rock and roll.
Come on.
We created all the genres of music. They have been taken and been reconstructed into a way that actually is in a negative way. And there's a purpose behind that.
No doubt.
What is that? Why do you think they do us like that? Or why did you think that happened?
Institutionalized racism, always wanting to take the narrative from us about who and what we are. No different. So when we think about, again, I'm going to use white America as an example. They have been allowed to be varied, right? That they, from the most wealthy to the poor, they have been allowed to be presented in a very broad and multifaceted way, in ways that we understand. If the wrong image is put out there of us, then that's the image that the dominant culture runs with. And so this commercialization effect with respect to rap music, again, and I might have said 1997, I think it was more like 1993, that was purposive. So you weren't hearing a lot of the other artists who were speaking about other aspects of our community, that we've always been a vibrant, we've never been monolithic. We've all, we've had from the uttermost to the guttermost, and that is all true of our community. But we get depicted, and that is a form of institutionalized racism, to say this is how I'm going to present this group to the dominant culture, right? And so when you think about the Harlem Renaissance and Bojangles, for instance, and the ways in which he was depicted, your Cab Callaways, but they still played an important role with respect to putting music out there, but the ways in which they were hurled or put in front of others who were more critical, who were more let's say, vocal about the ways in which we were presented, they faced a lot of backlash in our community.
I agree. It's like I think they understand that we actually program, the music can program us. So I was taught that if we don't program ourselves, someone would program us.
That's good.
So we're being programmed by this music, but there's underground music that we still put out. So I try to follow a lot of underground artists, neo soul, any type of positive message, because the effect that it has on everybody, from the sounds of the music, from the words, from the artistry, the image that they put out for us. So we want to really just take in consideration and just kind of think about the words that we use. I mean, it's so powerful, man.
Absolutely.
You guys are powerful too.
So we're going to continue with this after break. You're listening to Black Port of Power on BSB Radio.
When we wash all our pain away, we say, oh my Lord. When we can't make it through the day, we pray, oh my Lord. Here's a test coming to my faith, we pray, oh my Lord. Will my people ever be safe in the land that takes us and breaks us? I can't be sure.
Walking with the Lord, I see footprints. My mama always told me use my good sense. Common always looking for the good sense. Since we all got good in our essence. In the hood sense, we all good anyway. That's why you always hear another dollar, another day. I see the day as a new beginning. Movement of the people, movement of the women to get the earth spinning in the right direct. This movie of life sometimes might project act scenes that don't seem serene. I like Palo Santo, put on Love Supreme and get into the being of the great I am. That's when I get to seeing just how great I am. Many, many times from mistakes I ran, but I'm just a cake, let me bake, goddamn. I pray I don't forsake my man, and whenever I fall on faith I land. Imperfections, resurrections, in the mirror staring at God's reflection, reflecting on my aggressions, on my progressions, on my obsessions. There's a lesson in not feeling less than and seeing life itself as a blessing.
When we wash all our pain away, we say, oh my Lord. When we can't make it through the day, we pray, oh my Lord. Here's a test coming to my faith, we pray, oh my Lord. Will my people ever be safe in the land that takes us and breaks us? I can't be sure.
The jubilee of a newer me, giving my enemies something new to see. My community, they be fueling me. In the struggle of us, there's a unity. The moral universe, stay schooling me. Will the King of Kings really ruling me? I'm an instrument, stay in tune with me. This orchestrated by Kareem, some more booming me. If Agape had a Cupid, she'd be shooting me. This rap here is fear's eulogy. Escape rooms with glasses of wine, just another crutch for my brokenness. A term that I got from my therapist. As a black man, I feel I should be sharing this. In the hood, they say we crazy and we derelicts, but we need it for our kids and our marriages. The old folks say we don't do that, but taking care of self is the new black. Unconventional ways, unconditional ways. Meditation, mindfulness, it's just giving the praise. I'm in a phase, all I see is victory. You on that wave, then come and get with me. I only want what's meant for me. and say the things that sent to me. In penitentiaries, I met the most enlightened. Finding the losses, heaven's excitement. I write with the force of a kid that wanted to be in the source, but that changed the course. I maintained the sauce and became a boss. I apologize if I came across as judgmental or self-righteous, cause in you, I see his likeness.
When we wash all our pain away, we say, oh my Lord. When we can't make it through the day, we pray, oh my Lord. Here's a test coming to my faith. We pray, oh my Lord. Will my people ever be safe in the land that takes us and breaks us? I can't be sure.
And we're back talking about spoken word, about the ways in which we contribute to the art form. And Jerry, you were sharing with us about how powerful words are and how, you know, the message that is presented about us is really critical and important. And so we've got to look not just at what's kind of put at the forefront by the dominant culture with commercialization, but also looking at these other areas of music, other areas of art that aren't as well known or put at the forefront, like neo soul. When you think about these artists that are burgeoning after the birth of the Black Lives Matters movement, which is sometimes referred to as the new civil rights movement. So you got spoken word artists who are coming out of that, like Brandon Leak, painters like Naima Thomas and Teddy Phillips, who are presenting images of Breonna Taylor and George Floyd. So Leo Sunfire, jump in here. What are your thoughts there in terms of the power of words, the power of images, and how we're presented to the broader culture?
Well, I've always spoke on how powerful what you say, the universe receives, and it gives it back to you. It is energy behind the words that the universe, that you create and put into the universe. So the universe functions with numbers, all numbers, and everything is done through numbers. But the words send the vibration through the universe to create what is here on this earth. I don't think people really get that. What Jerry spoke on is the energy and the vibration behind the spoken word is very true. It's very powerful. We need to understand our speech, how we use our words, the tone that we put into the words that we use, how we speak to one another. Is it love that we're speaking through? Is it hate that we're speaking through? But how we speak through them, the energy is within that word. What you say is what you're going to get. You don't have to really mean it, but it's going to mean it for you.
Absolutely.
And it's, that's how everything functions within the universe. I've always spoken on that. So to hear him be more clear about it and be more detailed about the meaning of it is so profound to me.
Absolutely. And what you share with us about the ways in which we need to think critically about, are we doing this for the money? And then who's behind that? Who's behind putting that image out there, putting those spoken words out there that do reverberate in the minds of our youth, that they need to understand just how varied we are as a community, and more images need to be put out there of us in a very positive light. And so I really appreciate what you and others like you, Jerry, are doing to make sure that images of us, the ways in which we are spoke about, the ways in which we are presented to the broader culture, are much more broader than what they would like to limit us to.
I agree. I think the times that we're living in is affecting our consciousness, the way that we see things. A lot of people are waking up to struggles. A lot of things, the racism, all the negativity. So I think we can turn this. Even with the COVID going on, it's making people go within, not just in their house, but within themselves, and kind of rethink of the things that they'll be doing, how they treat people, how they speak to one another, how we treat one another, how we talk to ourselves. People forget about self-talk.
That's real.
So we really have to understand the way we talk to ourselves and the things we put in us is what we put back out in this universe. And it's like she said, it's the same. It's a macrocosm. We're the microcosm in a macrocosm. So the things we do on a small level affect things on a big level. So I think the Black Lives Matter, if you pay attention, you don't hear a lot of new music coming out because it's making our own artists reflect on the message that they're sending, or they're selling out for just the money.
Absolutely.
How they're affecting their young cousins and family members left behind in their cities. So I think this day and age that we're in is an awakening period. So it's truly going to affect us in a positive way. I see more of the underground people coming on top of the ground. So I see a transition in the positivity and the message. I think we're getting back to another renaissance.
We are.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
So,
And I want to say this with respect to the Black Lives Matters movement, because so many images have been put out there that are negative, and some of them distorted, no different than when we think about the civil rights movement and the burgeoning of the Black Panther Party, that people were put to infiltrate those parties to presented in a negative light. And we've got to be, especially in this age where we are informed through all of these different ways, through social media, through news-making media, which we can always criticize, through pop culture, that the image that's put out there sometimes is always negative. And that is purposive. That is a form of institutionalized racism. So the Black Lives Matters movement, which is decentralized, but was first started by Alicia Garza, Patrice Colliers, and Opal Tometi. I always pronounce the name wrong. But these were no different than the Black Panther Party being formed around dealing with police brutality. And it was criticized, right? Because you had the movement that was led by Dr. King, then the other movement that was led by Malcolm X. And the Black Panther Party are these young people who were really, really forceful in putting out that we're gonna protect ourselves. We're gonna do this by our own means. So we're gonna wear a very militant looking gear. We're going to have weapons on us to say we will no longer stand for the police killing us. But they also began a lot of programs within the city to,
most importantly,
yes, to do that. And so you see Angela Davis, Huey P. Newton, Carmichael, all of these others coming out, but who were denigrated in the public media, as being radical, as being too radical. The Black Lives Matters movement was supposed to be decentralized so that you did not have identifiable leaders like that. So it was supposed to be different in Baltimore or different in Ferguson, different that this way you couldn't attack or identify a particular leader. And the downside of that is that then it gets moved into or presented in all of these very different ways. But when I think about why it was started, the purpose for it, and the reason it was supposed to be decentralized. And so now you've got all of these different entities using the term Black Lives Matters, but our kids are really confused. Like, is it really positive? Is it negative? What's going on? Because we have a whole different way in which things are presented to us and to our community. So kids do have social media now in a way that again, you got information at your fingertips rapidly. We've got to be, as adults and the ones that are the generation above them, allowing them to be informed consumers of information, getting them to think critically about, so why is that song played more on the radio? Or why is that artist promoted more than others? Why are these different images out here? And then you make a choice. Then helping our youth to say, hey, this is who we are as a people, and that you've got to be mindful of any critical images that are put out there of us. Is that true of what you see every day, all day? And is that the only image that you see every day, all day of us? And so I love artists like Kendrick Lamar, who's really birthed out of, this gangster rap movement, having his connections to Compton and NWA, but he's speaking truth to power too. So this is an artist who was able to push back against the establishment and say, yeah, this is what I'm going to do. And by the time he's so powerful and prominent, I don't think you can rein him in at this point,
Exactly. And you touched on people like the Black Panthers. And then you talked about Kendrick Lamar, the gangster music. Some of our gangs even started out as crime resistance in progress. See, a lot of these things have been turned from positive to negative. We have been infiltrated as people, our culture. We have been actually, like I said, we've been exploited in so many ways to get the best out of us and for them to monetize off of the things that we have done. But they have infiltrated us and kind of turned things into a negative fashion. Like I said,
and Jerry, can I take you back to when you said infiltrated us? So Crip and Blood organizations were organizations. They were social organizations and movement. Can you tell them what Crip stands for again?
Was it crime resistance in progress?
Come on.
We had to police our own people. I mean, I truly understand it. When you're dealing with people with racism and people trying to destroy you, who else better to protect you than your own?
Come on.
So we got so far away from it. But like I said, some of us are sold out. That's when they planted drugs in our community and things like that to change the message. To actually, we've been paid to change the message. So and the image of our people too.
That's right.
So
well, we got into the modern day part of the Black Renaissance because we have dominated in so many things. Music is definitely, who can do it better than us? No one. We have dominated sports, music, fashion. We have accomplished high positions in politics and education. We have taken leaderships in all areas of creation, architecture, engineering, technology, and law, entrepreneurship, and medicine. Dr. CB, homeopathic, he was bringing it to the forefront to let you know, hey, the pharmaceutical companies got y'all jacked up, but I got a solution for you. The Most High sent it to me. So I'm going to give it to you in the naturalist form possible, in a way that you can mix it and mingle it to get the best optimum health you can have. Dr. CB, they killed that man for that. I'm just saying.
And Dr. CB is in the line of traditions when you think about George Washington Carver and his inventions.
Absolutely.
And they're asking him, I remember reading this, he was being asked, how did you come up with all of these inventions from the peanut? And he said, I literally turn to the Most High. I pray every morning for enlightenment and wisdom on what to create and how to innovate. And so again, we come from this long history and tradition of people who have always contributed to our culture. And some of them we learn about later on, so many people aren't familiar with Dr. CB and quite a few are because of social media. So I want to make sure that I put out there, we can't scale back social media, but we certainly can make sure that our youth are informed consumers of information and making sure that they are aware of those who might not be put at the forefront, but certainly should be.
Yeah, like she was saying, someone spoke on the fashion, the things that we do, the contributions that we make to the industry. But one thing we have to do is we have to produce. We have to create more. We're kind of like, I want to call them label holes.
Muse.
Yeah, we're pretty much used to sell products at this point. So, I was thinking, just Christmas is coming up, and what better could we do to promote our own with our music? To instead of Gucci and Versace, all these people who doesn't pay back into our communities, why don't we help the young brothers and sisters out here, and why don't we stand up for them and promote them? We don't. So, but we need to more. We need to take this and turn it around. Like I said, there's so much power that we have, and we go to college and we kind of forget something called intuition. We pay for a tuition, but forget the intuition. Like you guys said, a lot of these things come within these people. We're born with these gifts, this knowing somehow the Dr. Sabi's never been to a college. Some of these people, Gil Scott Herons, the people who spoke out politically and gave us a message. Even
the revolution will not be televised.
It'll be internalized, actually. That's what it should be. So once you change, you watch the world around you change. So let's take this power and use it. Let's use it to promote our people, to promote our products, to promote self-love.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the things that when I became an entrepreneur was back in 1998, really, when I took this class at Kaufman. I named my salon Network. That was my business name from the very beginning, because my idea to unite and network businesses, especially Black businesses, was vitally important to me. no fees. You know, I know everybody say you should get paid this, but my idea was to unite, to make sure that everybody had a chance to shine. Everybody had a chance to know that you're out there. You got this. You have those products. You have this business that they can patronize and bring it to the forefront. So I named my business Salon Network. Because I wanted to network amongst my people. So when you said, let's start by patronizing our own kind and making sure that we create different things that we can buy within our own communities. That idea has been conceptual for me for a long time, and I think it's so amazing to hear other people have those ideas as well.
And I think we always have, right?
Yeah.
And so being mindful of, I like Jerry's term, label hoes, right? That we don't just promote other products. We've always been good at promoting other businesses and things, but we've got to do a better job of continually promoting our own
and patronizing
our own, right? That we've always contributed to the culture, whether we're talking about Salon Network and the products that you create for our hair that is unique to our hair through your label, Beauty Enrichment, right? That there are things that are not culturally specific to us and our scalp and the treatment of our hair. So you create that, right? That is a creation. That is art, right? In and of itself. When we create our own clothing lines, that this is a representation of us and who we are and how we present to the world. When we think about the ways in which, as you were saying, spoken word, that words matter, that a word like poverty isn't negative, it's the connotation under which it's used. If poverty is something we're experiencing, how do we change that? And that even, I shared this before, I grew up in a neighborhood that many would have entitled, the dominant culture would have entitled impoverished. I didn't feel that. I felt the wealth of my community. I felt the beauty of my community and the richness of it. I never even knew I wasn't middle class until I got to college. That we need to penetrate educational systems. This is why the birth of HBCUs, but then we got to penetrate those PWIs, those predominantly white institutions, and speaking to youth that are white and giving that voice to the Black experience, and teaching courses, penetrating these campuses and saying this is who we really are, that we're going to change the narrative of how we're presented. So we have to do that both through our own communities, but then how we penetrate the dominant community so that they never, ever forget. We can't just be siloed into pockets like Harlem, that the Harlem Renaissance, for instance, this is why Bessie Smith, Langston Hughes, these are names that we still know, that documentaries and movies are being presented about them even today. You cannot kill us. You cannot kill out our voices and our contributions to this culture, period.
Exactly. Well, the Black Renaissance is such a powerful movement that cultural appropriation is at an all-time high. Yes. We have not been successful with finding ourselves because the cultural appropriation that others have done is making it more prominent to be negative. Rather it's music, rather it's education, rather it's art. They have found a way to keep us indignant, if you want to call it, by using cultural appropriation against us. So it's hard for us to search and find ourselves in a light when they keep putting darkness around us.
And I like how youth push back against that. So that term cultural appropriation, again, when you think about the Harlem Renaissance, these were young people at that time. When we found out about them, they were much older. When you think about the civil rights movement, they were really young at that time. Dr. King is presented like this old man, and he was really young. He wore the suit and the tie, but they were young people. And even now, this pushback against cultural appropriation, that young people, the energy and the vibe coming from them are saying, yeah, that's cultural appropriation. Let me call a thing a thing. Let me call out, these artists like, Madonna, Katy Perry, and others who have used garb from other cultures and worn it in a way that was inappropriate, that did not represent them well. The ways in which, Tommy Hilfiger was called out, for saying, well, I didn't really make my clothing for them. Oh, okay. The way we've called out Cristal and others, you know, we've done this. I want to always remind us that we've done this. We've always pushed back, and because we've pushed back, we've survived. We continue to exist. We continue to call them to the table to say, well, you know what, we'll create our own. We've always done that. And so if you don't respect us, if you don't want us, our flavor is always going to bring in revenue. It's always going to bring in new ideas and a different way of doing it. Sometimes I appreciate when the broader culture tries to denigrate us, or when they try to limit our image. That's when we push back harder, and that's why we continue to have these movements, these revolutions that continue to happen, because we will not die. We will not die out.
That's very true.
Yes, indeed. Like you said, they pushed us into darkness. They dumbed us down. But out of the darkness comes light. So in the darkness, you pretty much, you go through a lot of things. And these, like she said, the experiences is what make us. So out of this darkness, we should bring light into the world. So let's just take it and make something positive out of it.
Absolutely.
Like I said, the Renaissance never stopped.
It has never
That's right.
stopped.
It's
That's
never
right.
stopped. Like I said, it may have went underground, but some things have to. That's just like if you plant a seed. It has to go within the ground first for it to come out. And the dirt is hard, but we bust through it and we flourish. So these are what we're doing with the negativity and with all the leftovers they gave us. We make stew. We make it together. We make a gumbo, and then we sell it to the world. So this is what we're doing now. We're mixing all of our experiences and our struggles, and we're coming up with something that is brewing. And I'm starting to smell it.
And it smells good. Very good. Very good.
Well, I want to say this one thing. I got a little something. It's called Black Pride Aside. Coiled crowns, golden kissed skin, so brown that they stop to stare with admiration and sometimes a frown. Spewing words of rejection, jealousy, and hate are the detections of, and lack thereof, of melanin and melanated people. Naturally, culturally aware of the beauty inside, they demand that I put black pride aside. How can I abide when the power and the energies are alive? Looking in the mirror at the reflection of the Most High. Cut my locks, bleach my skin, walk and talk like them to win. My black pride dwells inside. I will never put my black pride aside.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
I'm just saying. You know, this is Jerry is the beginning. Jerry Watson. I don't want to just call him Jerry Watson is the beginning of the movement for Black Portal Power, to bring people in, to make people aware that we are not just, I'm going to say it like my girl, monolithic.
That's right.
We are grander and greater than anything this planet has to offer. We have to understand that and create, like Jerry Watson said. We have to understand that and educate, like Dr. Like does, our people, our youth, to come into their light and step out of that darkness. The seeds have been cultivated when they were planted. You don't have to stay there. You have to come up into the light in order to be reaped and benefited from.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so when we think about the importance of this, the ways in which we all contribute to rewriting the narrative, right? Rewriting and redefining who we are and how we are presented to the world. So I want to make sure that we give Jerry an opportunity, again, to share a spoken word with us, to really end us out for the day and leave us on where we need to be going, where we are and where we need to be going as we move forward.
Like I said, we just need to own our power. On that note, I'm going to end this real sweet. Short but sweet. I call this the power of words. You see, I'm so absurd with these words, these noun, adjectives, and verbs. Like a biblical scripture, see, I can paint pictures that can't be seen, but only heard. While I'm vividly describing the unadulterated truth, I'm lyrically providing, also combining reality and proof. So one can see at a glance on just how to advance. I tell my mans, take a chance with your plans and always try to enhance your game. You see, it's all the same. Your knowledge, it equals power. My vocabulary is so strong that all my oppositions I'll devour. I stand tall like a tower. I'm concrete. I won't crumble. I'm sleek and unique from my head to my feet, but I still stay humble. My words, they sting like that bumble and cut like a two-edged sword. No, I'm not the Lord, but this verse will give you something to look forward to in your future. So give it all till there's nothing left. Just know one thing, the words we breathe, they have the power of life and death.
Yes.
Super dope. I love that.
Super dope. Thank you so much, Jerry
Yes.
Watson. I want to keep
Watson.
saying Watson. Watson, thank you so much, Jerry Watson, for sharing your gifts and your talents. We hope to continue to hear and see more. I know we will.
We will.
We absolutely will. You have a voice that needs to be shared
Yes.
with our communities. I know with our community, but even broader into our communities across this nation and across this globe. It is powerful. It is important. So thank you so much for sharing with our listeners today, and for sharing with Leo Sunfire and myself. I know I have been enriched by the words you have spoken, and I look forward to hearing more.
Yes.
Definitely look forward to hearing
Definitely keep speaking the truth, Jerry, because this is, we all have a platform. And when we're given that platform, it's important that we use it to the fullest. You speaking on words and the energies and teachings, because I'm going to call you a teacher. You educating and enlightening people on how energy works with the words is probably very profound and prolific as far as their education levels have gone. You definitely should keep teaching the youth that, and they understand it better than our generation does, believe it or not.
Yeah.
They really do. The ones I speak to, and they really have learned, they speak like that. So yeah, you keep giving them that work. It's important that you do that.
Well, I just want to say I appreciate you guys.
Oh yeah.
I listen to you guys all the time.
Yeah, that's
and you guys are teaching, you guys are preaching, and I'm listening, and you guys are reaching the masses. So keep it up. You guys help people like me, and y'all provide a platform for consciousness. So thank you guys.
Thank you. Thank you. So you've been listening to Black Portal Power on BSB Radio.
Open your mind,
For your soul.
for the portal is always open.